Hello and welcome back to New Beginnings with Imani. I'm your host Imani, and today we have an amazing topic that we're going to discuss about. This is emotional intelligence. I will start by asking you a question. Between these two, which one do you think is greater than the other one, or are they equal? You can comment down there below. Emotional intelligence and intelligence quotient. Which is greater than the other one, or which is more important than the other one? So let's dive deep into our conversation today. And today we are going to define what emotional intelligence is. Why do people try to ignore their emotions, and how does it affect our decision making? So, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence, I will define it as recognizing, acknowledging, understanding, and responding to an internal state of being, both yourself and the other person. So it applies for me and to the other person. So I will define it as acknowledging that internal state of being or the emotion, then understanding it, then respond to it. Okay, let me ask you, what is the difference between emotions and feelings? Emotion is that state of being, the internal state of being. And now the feeling is that impression of it now. Like, let's say you're feeling, inside you're feeling somehow, but there is a way that you portray it. Then we will know this is anger, this is happiness. So it is that expression. Let's say someone has talked to me badly or in a bad way, then I feel some type of way inside of me. So that is the emotion. It is the internal state of being inside of me, because I feel some type of way. But now, because I feel some type of way, what next? The next step is acknowledging that the emotion is already there, because it is there. You can't deny it is there. So first is acknowledging that it is there. You accept that the emotion is there. After you've accepted, now you understand. Now this is the way I'm feeling. This is the way I feel inside of me. This is what I'm thinking. Then after you've understood it, you've accepted, then you've understood the feeling or the emotion. Now you'll be able to make a choice or to decide, to make a decision. Let's say you are angry. Someone talked to you in a way that someone talked to you in a way that it stirred up something inside of you, which is anger. But now, instead of just rushing to what you're feeling right there, you sit down, you analyze, how am I feeling? This is the emotion. And I can't deny this is the way I'm feeling. So what am I going to do about this? What am I going to do about this? Then you decide. So this gives you room to decide, to make a choice. This gives you room to make a choice and to weigh the consequences. So that is the importance of it. You weigh the consequences before you make that decision. Then you respond. Because when you act immediately, you'll be reacting, because you've not thought about it, you've not processed everything, you've not understood why this is happening, you've not known the root cause of it. So you'll be rushing, and that is reacting. So you need to respond to that, both to yourself. First it starts with yourself, then to the other person. Yes, I'm feeling this way. What am I going to respond, or what am I going to do? And the other person did this. So you try also to understand the other person, the internal state of the other person. You try to understand, because maybe he said this because inside him he's feeling some type of way. So you can't really know, but you have to understand the other person also, and you respond to the other person. Now, after you've understood your emotions, now you can respond to the other person, and that is emotional intelligence. Because you've not reacted to that thing. You've sat down, you've thought about it, you've weighed the consequences, then you've made the decision. Now you're responding to the person. That is emotional intelligence, because emotions are there to give you information, not instructions. So the way you're feeling, it is just an information, but what are you going to do with that information? That is the question. What are you going to do with that information? Yes, it has informed you that this is the way you're feeling and this is how you want to react. It has informed you. So what are you going to do with that information? You need to understand. Now the application of which the wisdom comes in, because you are applying that which you've understood. You've understood this is the way I'm feeling and this is the consequences if I go this way. You've weighed the consequences and you've chosen the direction to go. The important thing about emotional intelligence is that you need to respond to them, not to react. And also, they are there to inform you, not to instruct you. If you feel some type of way, it doesn't mean that you need to do that thing. It doesn't mean that you need to do that which you're feeling. You have to get the information, then you decide, you understand it, and then you decide the choice that you're going to make. So it is not there to instruct you. That is what I've learned. It is not there to instruct you, because if you go by your emotions, most times you will reach a point where you feel like this wasn't a good decision. It was not a good decision. So you have to receive the information, then process it, and then now respond. So why do you think like most people ignore their emotions? I know there are many reasons, because sometimes it's because you don't want to make things difficult. That is what you tell yourself. I don't want to make things more difficult in this situation. So you tend to avoid understanding the emotion. But it is important because it makes you understand yourself more. And let me tell you, when you understand yourself more, this is how I react. This is how I behave when I am angry. This is how I behave when I am overwhelmed with work. Do you know, you will know yourself to some level. And when you find yourself in that situation next time, you'll know what to do. That is the important part of it also. You will know what to do. You will know which decision to make. Say, for instance, once upon a time back then, okay, I sat down one day. There is a time I used to feel, anxiety is on top, worry is there. Then I sat down one day, then I started to find the root cause of it. And I realized it was coming in that moment where I felt overwhelmed with work or some things that I need to do and which are having deadlines. So I sat down and then I was like, okay, so this is the root cause. Now, what I did is I tried to plan myself. Now I started writing things down, and when I reached to that point, I always work with this method. I know I've ever said to some videos back then. So there is a method I use. I just pause, I take a deep breath. You breathe in, then you breathe out. You just take a pause. Take a pause. For me, I take a pause, I pray, I praise. So I just relax, I take a moment. You breathe everything out. Then you start singing, or you start listening to music, because I love music. You start listening to music. Then you pray. Then you go back refreshed. So for me, I understood that this is the way I behave when I'm overwhelmed with work, and this is how I tend to think when the work is there. This is how I tend to think when I have so many things to handle at the same time. So it is good to understand the way you behave at some level, or maybe during certain times. It's good for you to understand yourself, because it helps you know yourself more and better, and then you work things out in a good way. Let's say you're angry. Yeah, because I used to have that issue also, because when I was hungry, sometimes I could talk a lot, or maybe I could show you, madharau. Yeah, I know, like in my mind I could have answered you. I could have answered you, but you don't know what I've answered you. So I've not vocalized it, but in my mind I'm thinking on the way to come back at you. So let's use that example. Let's say you're angry. Now I came to realize when I'm angry, like I feel like answering someone in a way that the way I feel right there, I would feel like giving you those words at the moment. But when you understand that, when you come to the realization of that, you will know how to handle that. Because it reached a point then I was like, okay, so once I've spoken, I cannot return the words back. And there is something that words does to a person, both to you and to the other person that you're talking to. So after speaking all those things, I could start feeling haunted, regret, guilty. Then I came to learn that it's not a must I say what I feel at the moment. Sometimes just keep quiet, because that when you're angry, you can say a lot of things, and you cannot reverse the words that you said. You cannot take them back again. They're already out, and they cost whatever they cost to the other person and even to you. So you can't reverse the words. So for me, I realized that. Then I said I found a way, and that way was to be silent. You just be silent, and people are different. For me, I remain silent, then I go cry, I let it out, and then I come back later to talk about it, or maybe I just let it slide. So it depends with the person. The moment you've understood yourself, you'll know how to handle the thing, because that is my way, and someone else can have another way that is working for that person. So it is good to know yourself. It is good to know yourself. And most people ignore that emotion because they have that fear, because you don't know how to respond, you don't know how the other person will take it. But it is good to know those times. It is good to know them, and also it is good to respond to them. You be the master of your emotions. There is a movie that helped me a lot, and I love watching it. I always rewatch. I always recommend my friends to watch the movie, like every time. So it is called The War Within. If you've not watched that movie, you can go look for it. Then you'll see like how emotions destroys a person when you don't manage your emotions well. It destroys a person. You can lose important relationships because of emotions. You can lose important people in your life because of emotions. So, have you ever heard of people who are brothers, or maybe they are families, but they don't talk to each other simply because of the way they felt, or simply because of the way the other person made them feel at that time, and they kept it in their hearts. They didn't let it out. They didn't forgive. They are just holding on to that thing, and they're not talking to each other. I just feel bad about it, but sometimes you can't force someone to do some things until that person comes to that realization that he needs to let go and create more space. Because when you hold on to many things, you're making yourself to occupy, like you're making yourself to be so busy and to carry some heavy burdens, of which you can just let them go, forgive, then it is sweet to forgive. You just forgive, then you move on. Even it is better to keep the good moments. You just keep the good moments, forget about the bad moments. Yeah, so emotions can make you lose important people in your life, can make a disunity to be like norm between people, grudge. So you need to manage your emotions well, and in a good way. You just handle things well. That's what I can say. And the way you feel, you will not feel like emotions are temporal. You cannot feel that way forever. It is in that moment. And what you decide to do in that moment matters a lot, because it will determine on how you will move forward with that thing. So don't try to hide your emotions or maybe to ignore them. You just acknowledge that they are there, accept that they are there, and now know what to do about the emotions. Do not follow the emotions. Talk to yourself. There is something that words does to you. When you talk to yourself in that situation, there is something that you'll start thinking and rewiring at the moment. And the next thing is how does emotional intelligence affect our decision making? From all that I've said, there is something that there is a decision that you need to make. And if you allow emotions to be at the top, most times you'll regret because it was emotions that was speaking at the moment. There is a quote that I saw somewhere that do not make a promise when you are super happy or excited, because at that moment if you're not careful, you will make the promise but you won't fulfill the promise. So be careful. Like, the decisions that you're making should not be as a result of your emotions or feelings. You should analyze everything before you make the decision, because you can easily mess up with everything because of your emotions. So what I will say is decision making should not be as a result of your emotions. Manage your emotions well and guard your heart. Guard your heart. So let's say you want to, I will use the example of anger, the feeling of anger. So let's say you are angry. Someone has done something to you and you're very angry and you feel like fighting that person. So from the definition that we had earlier about emotional intelligence, that it is recognizing, acknowledging, understanding, then responding or making decisions after you've understood the emotion. So now you're angry and you feel like you need to beat this person up. You need to fight. That is what you're feeling at the moment. You need to fight this person. So there are two people in this scenario. There is someone who will go ahead and fight this person. That is a decision he made or she made. Then there is this other person who will sit down, analyze everything, understand everything, then decide just to let it go and not to fight. Those are two different people who have made two different choices. And there is one of them will regret later. He or she will be remorseful later on. But this other person will not have a lot to regret about, because he didn't take that step of fighting. So that is how emotions affect our decision making. If you go with emotions, you're likely to regret later. But if you go with emotional intelligence, then you're likely to be on the right side, or to be on the perfect side. So think about it, and you can add some more in the comment section. See you in my next video. Bye.